Hello and welcome for the penultimate time to Talk of the Traitors.
Welcome back to Talk of the Traitors, a mini-series from Talk of the Townsends where we talk about the UK series of the Traitors. And if we sound a little bit more traitorish than normal this episode, it's because what are we wearing right now, Hannah?
This is doing a crossover with our normal podcast where we always describe what we're wearing and what the room looks like.
True.
We are currently, if you could see us now, picture this. We're sat on our sofa, both wearing...
How much are you going to build this up?
Both wearing the Traitors green velvet cloaks.
We are genuinely wearing cloaks right now.
And the hoods are up.
Yep.
If you want to see what that looks like, there will be clips obviously going out on our Talk of the Townsends Instagram, which
And
no one ever looks at. So more likely TikTok.
More likely TikTok.
Where do we begin?
What an episode. I've said from the beginning that this is the season where they've really tried to shake things up, really tried to change things. And I think this episode really epitomized that. It was a really different episode of The Traitors in so many ways. There were some bits in it that I've got some problems with, but we'll get to that. Hannah, should we do chronological?
As they say in The Sound of Music, let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to begin. I'm not sure if that's even the lyrics, but let's start at the first beat of this episode, which saw Leanne waltzing. Did they say she was going to stomp into breakfast or something?
No, they said she was going to march into breakfast. Almost like a soldier might. She came into breakfast with a big old grin on her face.
She was chuffed as anything, wasn't she?
She was delighted to have tea to spill, sis.
I feel like the producers / editors slightly massaged this episode of The Traitors. When Leanne was taken off into that side room and she read out the letter from The Traitors that said, we have murdered you. And then she was just like, no, they haven't. Oh, yes, they have. Yeah. But that hasn't happened before.
No, usually the person with the shield is just at breakfast and then they all kind of guess, oh, this must mean they tried to murder the shield person. But it's usually deliberately ambiguous.
Right, because it could always be a recruit. Otherwise, every day they could say, if no one was murdered, well, who was taken into the little thing? If no one was, we know there's been a recruitment.
Yeah.
But I think the producers desperately wanted Leanne to know that the traitors did try to murder her because it was very good TV and it caused more drama. So I think they were like, what if this happened?
Yeah, and I think also if they didn't do that, it's too difficult for all of them because then it's just way too ambiguous. Because then Leanne's at breakfast and you're like, maybe they tried to murder Leanne, we don't know. Maybe they recruited. It's just, they already have nothing to go on. I guess at this point of the game, they're like, we've got to help them a little bit because they have no clue. But that's not the only massaging that happened in this episode, I think, but we'll get to that later.
Let's talk about Freddy's lying at breakfast.
Oh, Freddy. He was pissed off and fair enough.
The long silences, the looks at each other, quite quick thinking from him to say Mina told him.
Yeah,
it didn't.
Pointless lie.
Look, he was in a rock and a hard place, right? Because if he didn't say he knew, then it's like, well, it's you or Alexander, most likely. So he kind of needed a bit of a defense. And as defenses go, saying Mina was fishing, I don't know. There was something there. Obviously didn't pan out.
It was clever. I mean, very quick thinking. I would have done this. It was quick thinking to pin it on Mina, who's obviously not there to ask. It is quite funny that no one, including all of them and me and you, no one clocked immediately that Mina wouldn't have been there to tell him that because she was banished.
Yeah, no, I clocked that straight away.
Did you?
But I assumed he was saying, Mina told me straight after the challenge.
Right, yes,
when he added in that it was at the bar later. Oh,
was that a later edition?
I think so.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense then. The thing is, though, like, he didn't actually need to lie because, like, they were going to pin it on it's either Freddy or Alexander. But Alexander made it through. He just went, look, I didn't know that she had the shield, but I'm not a traitor. But
Freddy had a bit more heat on him. Freddy's lie was like a white lie you tell to just quickly solve something. And then it's the smallest lies that just keep coming.
It just snowball. Yeah.
It just, when everyone kept going like, when did she tell you? Blah, blah, blah. Like, and wait, so she didn't know I had the shield. It was like, he kept digging. And I will say, like, for a lot when he was treading water, he was doing quite a good job when he was like, I think she just guessed from the smile. I was thinking the cutaways of him being like, of course, Mina didn't tell me, was actually very funny.
Very funny stuff from Freddy.
Freddy's lie from The Traitors was like at school when a teacher asks you, like, have you read the paragraph? Are you all clued up? And you're like, yeah. Thinking that that's the end of it. And then they're like, great, do you want to lead the do you want to lead the class? And you're like, oh,
You have it memorized, right?
oh.
And look, well, we see my uncle got sick while I was reading it, and he just
But I
snowballed.
started reading it, but then XYZ happened.
I didn't know you had an uncle. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what they say, though? It's not the crime, it's the cover-up. And ultimately, that's what undid Freddy, sadly, was the cover-up. I thought that the little bit of finessing he did, where he went, well, Mina didn't actually tell me. I think Mina was fishing for information from me. I'm like, that's genius.
Yes.
And in the moment, it really convinced Leanne. You saw Leanne go, oh, yeah, maybe
Yeah, that
Mina
makes
was
sense.
trying to just work it out. And I was like, damn, he's pulled it off. And then later when he was like, well, Mina was at the bar, they were like, well, Mina's gone.
Mina was banished.
Move on. The looks he was giving Charlotte. And again, fair enough. She snaked him so immediately.
Yes.
He was so annoyed.
I loved that scene where he went into the drawing room or the library with Charlotte, and then Alexander, happy chappy Alexander, was just like came and joined.
Yeah.
And he had no idea of like the awkwardness and the stares that he was sat in on.
But I did love that. And Charlotte said this herself. Alexander's eyes just going slightly wide looking at her. And you could see in his head, he's like, I think it's her. We spoke about this yesterday when people like play like a really sneaky game. I think he thinks Charlotte's a traitor, but he's keeping that to himself
Yes.
until the last possible minute.
I
Because it would have
agree.
been too dangerous for him to bring that up at the round table. He couldn't have got her out.
No.
But the way he was looking at her and, you know, and she was like, I don't like how you're nodding. I don't like how you're nodding at me.
Yeah.
You could see him, you know, he'd left the Matrix. He was like, oh, damn, it's Charlotte.
He was processing. As semi-finals go, that semi-final of the Traitors was just incredible. Here's some of the best bits. Fake Welsh literally making Freddy to be the one to write Leanne's name.
I know, making him do the dirty work. That is such a great touch. Do you want to be the one to write it?
Yeah.
Actually, no, she wasn't Welsh. She's not Welsh in the tower.
She is Welsh in the tower.
Is she? Does she keep it up with Freddy?
Of course. Otherwise, he could snake her even more.
Oh, I guess.
She said when Claudia came in, you're the only person I've done this, my normal accent with.
Actually, what's confusing is that she does Scottish in the tower.
The problem is the accent goes in and out at times. There's
Yes.
times where I'm like, is she not doing it anymore? Has she cut this bit?
Yeah.
And actually, it's just her. She's still in the Welsh accent. She went very Welsh where she was like, I am a faithful.
Yes.
She was like, what's the most Welsh? And like, you know, what is it? Does she do it? Because they're the most trustworthy people. She's like,
Yeah.
I will go full Welsh.
It's the most trustworthy accent, which is why Ellen was voted out almost immediately on the show. One of the most Welsh people alive.
Freddie coming into breakfast and doing the little jazz hands. It really reminded me of Miles when he was like, hi, when he saw Diane hadn't been murdered. It
Yes.
was exactly the same. Freddie was like, act cool, act cool, act cool.
Jazz hands. There's this little sound effect they love on the Traitors. It's like, ew. It's like a little sort of ew sound. And they always play it when something like traitory happens. And like when Charlotte went, you know, where they had to do the thing where they all look each other in the eyes and say they were faithful. When Charlotte was like, I am a faithful, it goes, dew. They love, like, whoever's got that button in the editing bay loves just spamming it every time Charlotte, like a traitor, does anything. It really makes me laugh. I love it.
Should we talk about the challenge?
Let's talk about this challenge because I have some opinions about this.
And they're not good, I'm going to say.
They're mixed. They're
Fair.
mixed. So it was broken up into all these sections and it had this overriding idea that the person who individually raises the most money gets to be the seer. Because we haven't even touched on the whole seer thing.
I feel like you're doing a Jake where he just re-explained the challenge that Claudia explained. And they were like, why have they left that in?
No, he was like, the seer gets to see
Is that
a
what-
person's status. It's like, yeah, we know. This has been very explained, Jake. I don't know why we need you to say this. First part of the challenge, run us through, Hannah.
God, I can't even remember it.
Oh no, who's explaining too much?
Sorry, I actually can't even... What was it?
First part of the challenge, the clowns were back.
Oh, of course, the clowns, and they did their little dance.
And the team was exceptionally good at it.
I think it was kind of easy. Smart from Jake.
Yes, to look
say,
for the
let's
skulls.
Look, there's only 5 skulls. Let's look for the skulls. Smart. Bit pointless, let's be honest. And also, like, why is it only 200 quid a pop? Come on, BBC.
But that's always been a thing on the Traitors in every series across the world, that the monetary amounts in the activities are always absolutely bizarre.
Yeah.
They're always like, players, you're playing for £149. It's like, why? Why is it never consistent?
Yeah, 200 quid a pop was fine.
A literal pop.
A literal pop.
200 quid a pop.
The weasel. And then the second challenge was the dolls.
Well, that's the thing. So after the popping, right, they'd all amassed money in a relatively fair way, right? They had the chance to keep going. Jake kept going or whatever. You then had this doll thing. I would argue the doll thing wasn't even a game.
No.
They sat down. They were given dolls, right? The game was just you pull the thing and you can keep pulling if you want. Wouldn't you know, all the people who made the most money were the ones who went last. Funny how that went.
Yeah.
The first 4 people were just immediately out.
I wrote down in my notes, how did they choose this order? Because they started with Alexander far left, and then they were like, okay, now we're going to go over to far right.
Yeah, it was like
I
Jake.
think Jake. So I was like, well, hang on. I thought it was going to go clearly Alexander, whoever, was it Frankie? Was it, it didn't make sense. We're either going down the line, but it was like, now we'll go to you. And then Leanne, who was just in the middle on the right, was last?
Yeah, the order was completely arbitrary. It's very, very convenient that the people who went last were the ones who had all the money. It's also very, very convenient that the people who made the most money were Freddy, Leanne. I mean, they threw Francesca in there as to throw a spanner in the works. But it's oh, that's funny that Leanne and Freddy would be battling it out for the money. I don't know. For me, it didn't feel like a game. It felt like genuinely money laundering from the producers of how can we just feed money directly to people and kind of make it look like a game?
But they had autonomy in the choice of doll. And would you not...
Did they? Did we see them choose the dolls?
I think we did.
I think we started with them already sat down with the dolls. I don't know if we saw them choose the dolls.
No, because I'm sure contestants would kick up their feet if they said. I think Claudia said pick a doll and sit down. I'd bet £200 on that.
Right, I'll take that bet.
But would you not describe it as a game of chance then?
Yeah, but it's a game of chance in the way that flipping a coin is a game. Is there any way to be good at that game? Your choice is always just keep going or stop. But Charlotte, for example, she pulled it once, she got 200 quid. She pulled it again, she was immediately out. What's the strategy there?
3 of them were too greedy after one pull.
Yeah.
You'd have thought at least 2, or one of them would go to only one pull. I mean, yeah.
That's not a game to me. That is odd.
Yes, we didn't love the dolls. And then final challenge,
they had to put the coins in the little mini cages, which was a nice kind of visual reversal of the previous thing. I enjoyed that. It was nicely designed. I also really like the idea of not telling them the time.
Yes.
That's a fun twist.
Who would be good at that?
Hannah, if you don't know, Hannah has a genuine
superpower.
I would describe it as a genuine sixth sense.
Yes.
You have a sense of time that I have never... Not necessarily timing, but you have a sense of time.
Comedic.
Yes, that I've never known on anyone.
Honestly, I have this insane sense of time. I kind of always know about what time it is, and I can always tell you how long it's been. When we set timers for cooking, I can just honestly, I feel it in my waters. I'm I'll be it's about to go off. I'll be like, Alexa, how long left on my timer? It'll be
1 second.
1 second every time. It's amazing. I would have been great at that game.
Shout out to all the Alexas we just set off, by the way.
Let's talk about Alexander. He is such an incredibly strategic. It takes a lot to not be selfish in these scenarios, because there's this quote that I saw the other day from Dragon's Den that I genuinely think has changed my life. There's sometimes things that you read that stick with you, live, love, laugh.
Yes. Or I think you guys might be thinking about yourselves too much.
Yeah, there's sometimes you read a quote and it just stays with you. And there was this quote on a clip that I saw on the TikToky the other day that said, if you miss the train, you want to be at least running for it. Okay. And the analogy there, let me explain it to you in case I'm clear, is that you got to be in it to win it. It's a reframing of in it to win it. Okay. And I just think that is such a good quote. I can't even explain it. I'm like, should I get that tattooed somewhere? It's just...
That's just because you love running for trains.
No.
Hannah's never met a train she couldn't run for.
I just love that I think a lot about putting yourself out there on social media and different things, and how hard and scary that could be. But so many people want to do it. And if you're not even running for the train and you're not even trying, then of course you're going to miss it. So with Alexander, I think I would find it so hard in these scenarios. Even Charlotte, I would be on the ground getting coins. I would be doing whatever to try and fill my little bucket, just because I would be so desperate just to try and win. But actually, it's so smart what he did.
I completely agree. I'd be the same, especially in those moments where you've got so little time. You don't even know how much time you have.
Yeah.
For him to be able to stop and be calm. That guy should be a diplomat. To be that level-headed, but also he is thinking in his own interest. He's just thinking like 4 steps ahead.
Because that's the thing. He's not giving up on himself.
No.
To do an analogy, Alexander's still running for a train. He's just running for a different train.
Okay, look, we all like the train thing. I don't know if it's useful in every case.
No, but seriously, like, how smart is it to think, okay, yeah, he could put coins in his own little basket, but he's not going to win. And the smartest way to bring someone on side would be to help someone else. But so many people wouldn't do that. I don't think I would do that.
I think he said, like, mathematically, I can't win. Like, he had done the maths, which is crazy. And he'd also very cleverly gone, okay, who's got the most money here? Freddie, Leanne, Francesca. Who can I actually literally bank on? Francesca. He's just so smart. And I think it did help him in the round table. It made him look trustworthy. What Alexander from the Traitors did in that coin challenge was faithful. That was actual faithful behavior. Yes, it was in his interest, but he was kind of acting in the interest of the group. It was faithful teamwork behavior. He wasn't just being brutally, single-mindedly selfish in the way kind of everyone has been in this series.
Yeah.
In quite a selfish series of the Traitors. He was thinking a little bit
Of the team.
He was thinking of any other option apart from what if I had the most of the points or the coins or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was a smart move. It kept him alive, I think.
It's both selfless and self-serving at the same time. It makes him look like a great guy. I feel like the nation has fallen in love with Alexander.
Definitely.
He is just such a joy, but it's also just so smart and tactical in a way. We see a lot of tactics on the traitor, you know, Charlotte with the shield thing. Again, it's a self-serving. That is a 100% self-serving strategy to throw someone else under the bus.
Under the train.
Under the train. It's so nice to see a strategy that, like, yes, it works in his interest, but not at the expense of someone else.
No, he is ultimately helping Francesca, but it also helps him. That's clever. That's what the faithfuls are meant to do. They're meant to be lifting each other up to catch the traitors. You know what? I take my hood off to him.
I think straight after that challenge, we also saw Alexander carrying all the waters in for everyone. I mean, is there anything he doesn't do?
And then Leanne was a bit mean to him.
Yes.
She was like, did you have a nice little chat?
Mean.
Be nice to Alexander. Although it seems like they kind of buried the hatchet.
Yes, I feel like they're on better ground.
Yeah, she said something at the table about, like, we actually had a proper chat for once. And then she seemed to really like him. I think they even had a little hug.
Yeah.
People also were surprised we didn't talk about Alexander's little VT, because I think it was the first time we ever saw his little hotel room VT.
The Seki by the fire.
The Seki by the fire, yes. I suppose that's one way of describing it.
It was Alexander with the Prosecco by the fire.
Could have been champagne, we don't know.
I would have thought, actually, for Alexander, it would have been champagne. He went to Oxford University.
It would be a very good champagne from, like, Uganda that he found on his travels.
No, he'd be like, I actually quite prefer a super dry verb.
A cliquot.
A cliquot. Should we talk about the round table?
Yes. I really feel for Freddy. I'm sure we all do. This poor guy, like, everyone has been on his back all series, you know, Livy hounding him. You're a traitor, you're a traitor. And he's like, for God's sake, I'm not a traitor. And then he was made a traitor for literally 5 minutes. And then he got caught in a lie. And then he had to stand up there and be like, I'm a traitor. And, like, he turned and left quick.
Fuming.
Really felt for him.
I felt for him too, as well, because you don't get to explain yourself. And until things air, I mean, I'm sure in the WhatsApp groups, you know, they explain bit by bit of when they were recruited or whatever. But, like, you have to leave with people like Frankie, who he spoke as like a mum to him.
Yeah.
Thinking like, oh, this boy's been lying to me the whole time. No, or even for a portion, to not be able to explain, it's literally been 12 hours. And in those 12 hours, I've told one of the crappiest lies ever. And, like, I've done nothing. I was told to kill someone. I killed them. It backfired. I've been like a lamb to slaughter. Like, you don't get to explain yourself, which must be very frustrating. I almost felt when we were watching him at the round table that he had given up.
Oh yeah, he had that classic thing that people have when they know they're about to get voted out. Traitors especially just get very, like, calm, almost resigned to their fate. Also, to come back to your point, like, when did they film this? Like, last summer?
Yeah.
You have to wait, like, months to find out, like, oh, that person wasn't actually a traitor.
Evil. Fake Welsh writing Freddy's name extremely large. Felt just like Anything else for poor Freddy?
If you could yell in short, Freddy! Freddy! When she turned it over, I went, Freddy! Because that's how it was written. It's like, we get it, Charlotte. You're voting for Freddy. She wanted to make that crystal clear.
What do we think about Freddy from the Traitors' parting gift to Charlotte? Because obviously writing her name implicates her moving forward. We've seen it in series 1 where that is how Wilf basically got out.
Yeah.
And I find it really frustrating because it does kind of break the game.
When we heard Leanne at the end, was Leanne going, why did he write Charlotte? You know, unfortunately, it plants a seed. I don't blame him at all because he got completely screwed over by Charlotte every step of the way. But I agree with you that it does kind of break the show because it's a huge clue.
I guess the producers can control things to a degree, but you can't stop someone writing someone's name down. And the second he does that, it's like, why would he? We've never mentioned Charlotte.
Yeah.
Why has he suddenly gone after Charlotte?
Yeah, I mean, that's like completely within the rules. Like the parting gift thing, famously, a lot of people thought was genuinely cheating, like him saying a parting gift, because that was such a clue.
Yeah, to be clear, in season 1, one of the guys who got voted out, he said a parting gift as he read out a traitor's name who he'd voted for. So when we refer to parting gift, that's what we're talking to.
Yeah, and a lot of people think that him saying a parting gift was too heavy-handed a clue.
Yes.
Now I think after that they made it clear you're not allowed to like comment before you leave on anyone.
But just writing her name down is enough. Do you think if Freddy hadn't written her name down, Charlotte would have been the one selected by Frankie?
Well, again, I'm like, I like this show. I accept that sometimes there's some like wheeling dealing behind the scenes. Is it not a little bit convenient that Charlotte, the most interesting person to be picked, was the one that Francesca picked? I mean, she had this reasoning of like, I think she's faithful, so I just want to make sure I've got an ally. But I'm like, obviously I know that, like, you know, we talk about these producers like they're these all-powerful gods, puppet masters. Like they can't just force players to do things. I know that. I don't know. Did you not think it was a little bit suspicious that Charlotte, of all people, was the one picked by the Seer?
I did, but I'm going to say something controversial.
Okay.
I think Frankie picking Charlotte makes for a less interesting final. It made for a fantastic semi-final.
Yeah.
But the cards have kind of already been dealt. We've got 2 people going up against each other where Frankie is going to say Charlotte is a traitor.
Yeah.
Charlotte is going to say she's lying. And I think people are more on Frankie's side.
What options does Charlotte even have? She's going to tell her she's a traitor and then I guess just have to really argue that Frankie's lying. But here's the thing. Why would Francesca lie?
If she was a traitor.
To be fair, right, she weirdly did have quite a lot of heat on her not that long ago. There was a round table where she very nearly went home and they all seem to have moved on from that, which they do love doing. I do think between the 2 of them, Charlotte and Francesca, the group would be more likely to pick Francesca as a traitor at this point. Although I do think Alexander's onto Charlotte. I don't know. I know what you mean, though. I think it does make it less interesting if someone knows for sure that Charlotte's a traitor.
Yeah.
But do you think the problem otherwise is they would never suspect Charlotte, so she just cruised to a win?
Yes, I think that was the way it was going. I think if Francesca had chosen Alexander, we would have seen that meeting tonight because it would have made for a more what's going to happen tomorrow.
Actually, I'll push back a little bit because I think the ending we were steering towards, which is no one ever figuring out Charlotte, that might be the most boring ending of all.
True.
Because then you just have like no one suspecting her. She cruises straight to the end and then wins, and there's no friction. What you really want and what the producers really want is what we got last time with Harry and
Molly,
where there's like a real debate of like, who can I trust and da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get that with Charlotte because everyone just fully thinks she's a faithful.
I guess it does. Do you know what? Maybe I go back on my word because it's 2 people battling it out.
Yeah, it
both
sets up a rivalry.
The other is lying, so it's who they're going to believe more. It's weird because we watch it and we know fake Welsh is lying, so I'm like, they're clearly going to go for Francesca. But you're right, maybe they won't.
I do think though, at the state of the game now, I think that group would think it was very strange, the idea that Francesca would just lie after that. I think they'd be more willing to believe Francesca's just telling the truth and Charlotte's a traitor. Because that seems like a weird gambit for Francesca.
If I was the rest of the group, is your best bet not voting both of them out?
Well, that's the thing as well.
If you think both of them are lying, then is your best bet us three getting together, if we can kind of trust each other and say, do you know what? If they're both saying they're both a traitor, 1 out of 2 is a traitor, our best bet is we banish both of them.
You're so correct. You're right. Neither Charlotte nor Francesca is making it to the end, are they? Unless they do some really good arguing.
I just don't think I could say if one person was saying that person has told me that they are a traitor, I don't think I would take that gamble. Like if I was Leanne, I would say, you're both gone.
You're so right. Because if one of them says the other one's a traitor, that basically guarantees that one of them is
One
a
out of
traitor.
two. And you can't trust anyone in this game. So your best bet is always just to get rid of both of them. I don't know how little they're allowed to whittle it down, right? So if we get rid of fake Welsh, we get rid of Frankie, there's the 3 left. Could feasibly they say we want to vote again? I guess that was what Harry and Molly did. So that it could end with a 2.
Yeah, you can. 2 is the minimum it can get to.
So I think, Jake and Leanne, no one's 100% on Alexander. So realistically, Jake and Leanne could say, shall we just get Alexander out? Me and you go to the end.
Yeah, because out of Jake and Leanne, Alexander's not really got mates there. Although Leanne's come around to him a little bit.
Yeah, but if you're
down
not
to the
100% sure, it's a banish.
Should we put our cards on the table then that we think Jake and Leanne are going to win?
So here is our final prediction for the Traitors final.
Yeah.
Frankie is going to get banished. Fake Welsh is going to get banished. We're going to be left with Jake, Leanne, and Alexander.
Yeah.
And Jake and Leanne are going to team up and get rid of Alexander.
Yeah.
So we're going to be left with Leanne and Jake. They are taking home the money.
I think that is the most likely scenario. That might also explain why Leanne has had so much screen time.
Yes, because she's one of the winners.
Yeah, she's been giving main character energy in terms of the edit. Jake less so, but they've clearly been pushing Leanne.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm delusional. I think you're so right. I think if it comes down to the wire, they've always had doubts about Alexander. I think, unfortunately, they're going to get rid of the People's Princess.
Because it just doesn't make sense if you've got 2 people going head to head, each saying the other is lying. Your only option is to banish both of them. Unfortunately, this power of the Seer has actually come back round, I think, and possibly might bite Frankie.
On the tush. I've said before that the H in Hannah G. Townsend... Sorry, I've said... The H stands for... I've said before that the G in Hannah G. Townsend stands for game theory. And you've honestly cracked it of like the Seer power screws you if you pick a traitor. Because the second one of the 2 people says the word traitor, that means one of you 2 is a traitor.
Yeah.
And then the rest of them, it's just like, we'll just get rid of them both. Easy.
Yeah, you have to.
Just steamroller the problem.
Yeah.
That's really well done, Hannah. That is very smart.
Thank you. So that's
Poor old Francesca, though.
Poor old Francesca, you think you get this thing that's absolutely amazing. But on the flip side, if a traitor had got the Seer power, they possibly could have invited another traitor. They both say they're both faithful. You really can't trust anyone in any scenario. But in this particular one, the easiest thing to do is banish.
By the way, I also enjoyed when Claudia was introducing the concept of the Seer. She was like, you have to reveal your true identity. And I like the idea of like, I'm revealing to you now that I am not Welsh. And that's the only thing she reveals.
Do you know what? Sorry, can you scrub from the deck that I said that I actually think it doesn't make for an interesting final? Because now I'm thinking about it. Now I'm deep in the game theory. I don't know who she was speaking about that 5 minutes ago, because I actually just don't back that up now.
Hannah's run for the train. She's got the train.
I know.
I think actually, yeah, the more I think about it, I'm like, this is probably the most interesting final we could possibly have with this.
I was running for the train, right?
Yeah.
I was scared about missing it. I got on the train. I was sat down.
My uncle was sick.
And then I was sitting thinking about my theories. And then I just thought...
And I was sitting on the train, and then I went to read that paragraph from school, the one you asked me to read.
And then Mina told me that it was...
Mina told me at the bar.
I actually... No, please erase that from your memories. I am so... Now we've spoken it through, I am so excited for tomorrow. I cannot wait.
Well, I think we were always excited, but I've also come full circle. Your frankly disgusting theory about it being a boring final. I mean, I think it's quite an exciting final. You got a showdown between the two grand dams of the series, Francesca and Fake Welsh. Finally, we'll know which culture is triumphant, English or English.
Interior or what's Charlotte? What does she do?
What does Charlotte do?
What does Charlotte do?
Is she also an interior designer?
I don't know. Francesca's outfits have been absolutely phenomenal this series. What a style queen.
Absolute shout out. Every time it cuts Francesca, it's like, damn.
She's
throwing fits.
sorry? Damn?
Damn, in terms of the style.
I'm joking.
And that ass.
All right, we're going to love you and leave you. Let's chat tomorrow. Let's get excited for the final and enjoy every second.
And I hope the cloak sounded good.